just give it a moment here. Let folks start popping in.
8 hours from Kansas City. That's
Yeah, I was actually talking to Jacob about what should we call today's episode, and we were throwing around a bunch of different titles and stuff, and he threw out this one that was similar to that. 8 hours from Kansas City. I'm like, that's dumb. He's like, would you click on it though? I'm like, probably.
yeah.
So, folks that are just joining us, welcome. We're just making fun of Jacob, of course. He's always, many laughs at Jacob's expense around these parts when I'm involved, especially. I'll explain the reason for the title here when we actually begin the officially recorded portion of the show.
Well, making fun of Jacob is such an easy target, so it's I understand why you do it so often.
And he takes it so well.
Yeah.
Well, hello, David and Cammie and Brett. Thanks for joining. Got a few others, I'm sure, popping in here momentarily. All righty. Everest, thanks for joining, Everest, on YouTube this time. Well, we'll go ahead and begin with the recorded portion of the show's audio, the part that actually will go out with the podcast. And for all those of you with us live here today, if this is your first time, we have 2 episodes a week, typically Tuesdays and Thursdays around 12 noon Mountain Time. We're about an hour later today because of an unforeseen conflict in my schedule, but here we are. And then if you ever miss an episode, you can find these on YouTube. You can find them on Facebook. You can also just go to the podcast feed in your favorite podcast app, iTunes, Google Play, doesn't matter, Spotify. So let's go ahead and kick off the show now. And here we go with Kevin Michalowski. This is the Concealed Carry Podcast, episode number 396. And welcome to the Concealed Carry Podcast, part of the ConcealedCarry.com network. I'm your host, Riley Bowman, and we do want to place some emphasis on that word network because, in case you've missed it, we really, truly do have a podcast network now. We've got the Concealed Carry Podcast, of course. We've got the Not Your Average Gun Girls podcast. We've got the Firearm Trainers podcast. And recently we had joined the network, the Law Dog Shooting Sports podcast, hosted by Brian and crap. I'm having a brain fart all of a sudden. Shoot, now I feel like a total wingbat. But anyway, great podcast, Law Dog Shooting Sports Show. Guys, check out our podcasts, and thanks for being a part of this one today. Now, if you're wondering why I'm a bit flustered, it's because I've been running like a madman, trying to scramble my way back to the office here where I could get set up to podcast and do this interview with Kevin Michalowski, who's our guest on the show here today. Kevin, of course, with the USCCA, United States Concealed Carry Association, our brothers over there in West Bend, Wisconsin, the folks that get confused with us or us confused with them, vice versa.
It's good, though, because we're both going the same direction, so I'm not too worried about that.
That's right.
If it was somebody completely divergent, then we'd have to have a talk. So.
Speaking of the USCCA, they are our honorary episode sponsor today. And specifically, we're going to talk about the USCCA Concealed Carry Expo. You can learn more about the expo at usccaexpo.com. And we are your official media partner for that show as we do our live broadcast booth, broadcasting live all weekend long from the show there, from the show floor. And it's been a great time. This will be the 3rd year now that we've been able to put that together with you guys, and we appreciate you for working with us on that.
Well, it's just a great opportunity for us to continue to get the word out. I mean, there's 17 million concealed carriers in this country, people who have permits, probably more than that for all the constitutional carry states. And we just want to get the word out far and wide that concealed carry is the right thing to do. And we're going to help everybody learn how to do it.
Yeah, you betcha. Well, and the USCCA does a great job about that very thing, that mission. Of course, you guys are very passionate about your mission. I can let you speak to that here in a moment. Of course, we've had Tim Schmidt on the podcast before where we talked about those sorts of things as well. But before I get too far along and we get distracted by the conversation, I do want to also point out that today's episode sponsors happen to be those that are sponsoring the live broadcast booth from the show, and that is XS Sights. You can learn more at xssights.com, and also 511 Tactical, 511tactical.com. We're really honored to be teamed up with XS Sights and 511 Tactical, and appreciate their support of us, our mission, the USCCA, the Expo, and that week, that 3-day long live broadcast show that we'll be doing. I'll tell you, it's a very tiring thing. By the end of it all, we're all just wiped out, but it's a great time. And folks, you can catch that live show during the Expo. If you can't actually physically be at the Expo, or if you can't be at all 3 days of the Expo, all you got to do is go to our Facebook page or our YouTube channel, and you'll see all day long throughout the show those live interviews going on. We've got a lot of great guests coming up that weekend. So let's get into it, Kevin. Real quick, give us a quick rundown on who Kevin Michalowski is with USCCA, your role there, and what you do, and what you're passionate about.
Well, I am the executive editor of Concealed Carry magazine, and I've been here at the USCCA for about 8 years. I came from a previous background in firearms journalism with a different company, so I've been knocking around this game for about 25 years, writing and training and doing all sorts of stuff like that. And back in 2005, I picked up part-time work as a law enforcement officer here in the state of Wisconsin, and I decided to do that rather than join the volunteer fire department because I thought those firemen just drank too much beer. So I went to the police academy and got my certification and started working part-time at a couple different agencies back there. And what I'm passionate about is people doing the right things with their guns. I mean, the way I look at it is you cannot just simply put a gun on your hip and call it good. You've got to get some training. You've got to understand what's happening out there in the world. And there is a great big legal meat grinder waiting for you if you're involved in a shooting. And quite honestly, I learned about all of that stuff in the police academy as we were going through our firearms training there, and the liability, of the 40 hours of firearms training we had at the academy, probably only 6 to 8 of it might have been shooting. The rest of it was talking about the liability and what was going on from a legal standpoint, and that really opened my eyes to this idea that, people who carry guns really got to know what's going to happen to them before, during, and after a deadly force incident.
Yeah, so true. Of course, that's a topic that comes up regularly on the podcast here, as we particularly as we share those justified save stories that we do about once a month now. We used to do them about every week, but those are fantastic stories, and it's always. I'm very passionate as well about the same things, Kevin. My true passion in life is inspiring, teaching, and educating people to be empowered to defend themselves, if necessary, from deadly force attack. And and to do that successfully, like truly successfully, not only means putting an end to that physical deadly threat, but also making sure that you get through that whole situation, because it is and process. It's a huge process. The investigation that's going to come after the fact, and everything else. If you don't get through that in one piece, financially, emotionally, and physically, then that's not a success. So that is why that's pretty much why we do what we do, isn't it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. A deadly force incident might only last a couple of seconds. The fallout and the aftermath of that is going to follow you for years, maybe even the rest of your life, especially if you're ever second guessing yourself on whether or not you did the right thing. And that's basically human nature. If you're involved in a deadly force incident, could you have done something else? Was it the only way that you could stop this threat? And those are the sorts of things that we really want people to think about when they're out there being responsibly armed. And that's the goal of all of this, is to make sure that you are, one, taking care of yourself and surviving the incident, but two, making sure that everything that comes afterwards is also taken care of. And you're absolutely right. It's an emotional roller coaster. There could be legal issues. There could be civil liability afterwards, because we live in a country where it's, anyone can sue anyone else for anything at any time. So we have to be cognizant of that and make sure that we're doing everything correctly from the word go.
Yep. Yeah, you got it. Kevin, because the focus of today's show is on the upcoming USCCA Expo, I want to make sure we get into that. I'm sure you and I, we could talk all day long about all kinds of stuff, and I also understand you have a hard stop here in about 45 minutes. So, tell us about the USCCA Expo. Maybe give us a little bit about the history of it, because I think you've been at USCCA for as long as it's been about 6 years we've been doing the expos, and like you said, you've been there about 8
I
years.
believe this will be the sixth expo. I'm pretty sure if my math is correct. And I actually came up with the idea and pushed it forward and said we should be doing an expo. And people thought I was crazy. And now we're 6 years into it, and it just keeps getting bigger and better all the time. And when I realized we could get that mobile tactics trailer in there and we could have people actually shooting real guns, that was a game changer. That this was not your grandpa's gun show. We didn't ever want it to be that. We wanted it to be something so much more. My goal was always to make the expo into an amazing educational opportunity for everybody who showed up there. And then that's also supported by all of the consumer activity that goes on. There's an opportunity to learn everything you need to know and then buy everything you need to help take care of yourself when you're out there on the street. So that's what I wanted to see when we started. The very first expo was right here at the Little County Fairgrounds in West Bend, Wisconsin, just down the road from our headquarters. And it has grown exponentially since then. And we couldn't be happier with the way things are going. This year, March 20th through the 22nd in Kansas City. And if you're having any questions that the expo will go on, yes, no matter what, the expo is going to go on. Some other events have been shut down. People have been fearing, I won't even say the word, it's he who must not be named, fearing sickness out there on the horizon. No, we are taking extraordinary steps to make sure that people are taken care of. And this expo is going to happen no matter what. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in Kansas City, and we're ready to go right now. So, in fact, awesome. I was just loading up a pallet today, getting stuff ready for my Shooting on the Move seminar. So,
nice. Yeah, I saw that on the schedule. I want to kind of highlight that for a minute, because I don't know if people realize the opportunity sometimes. They're probably maybe aware of the expo. And of course, it's a traveling show. So this year, it's of course in Kansas City. Last year was in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Year before was in Louisville, and it's been in a couple other markets as well. So, it may not be close to wherever you are, but I want to point out that it is a huge opportunity in terms of the educational value. We've got a ton of big names in the industry that are at the show all weekend long, presenting seminars, special training sessions, and most of it included with the admission into the show.
Yeah, absolutely. We try to make the as many of the seminars and training opportunities free. Obviously, some of them are big, hands-on, long classes that people have to pay for. But you know what? We negotiate good discounts with those folks too, to make sure that it's affordable, that you can get in there and get the training that you need and want, and make sure that, again, when you walk out of the expo, you've come away with knowing something that you didn't know before. You might go and buy all the cool stuff in the world, but I want you coming out of that expo knowing something, having learned something that it makes you pause for a moment and say, okay, I'm feeling a little bit more confident about what I'm going to do if I'm ever faced with a deadly threat.
Yep. Yeah. I'll tell you, I was really impressed with the quality of presentations the first year of the show that I attended. Last year, speaking of, we got the live broadcast booth. I talked about that some, and I hope everyone will be able to come and join us there and see our live show taking place. We've got a big broadcast booth and lights and cameras and all kinds of guests lined up. We'll have Kevin back on, I'm sure. And I haven't seen the finalized schedule. I know that some of your team's working on that. You guys you typically bring to us the initial schedule and say this is where we want Kevin, and really it's about where is Kevin available. And
Yeah.
of course Tim
Sure.
and the whole team there. You got to find openings in all your busy schedules to slot you in. And but we have of course Beth Alcazar, and she's always great. Last year we had Chris Sereno, we had Dave Spalding, we had John Correa. He's presenting also some seminars, and I'll tell you his seminars are fantastic. And so there's tons of opportunities to catch these broadcasts, to go to these seminars. John Lovell, I know, is going to be back there again as well. That's always a great time. He's a amazing person, frankly, but also a great instructor. And also, there's other opportunities. There's the demo stage. So there's other specialized training sessions and tips and all that going on in that demo stage. And there's also the women's what's that called? The women's concealed
We
carry.
call it the women's showroom. So
Women's showroom. There you go. Yeah. And so more female oriented content and products and panel discussions and all kinds of great stuff. We are also, and I don't know if our audience realizes this, but and we worked this out with your team there at USCCA. We've got another booth set up for Mountain Man Medical, and our guy here, Brian, is going to be there with us all weekend long in the Mountain Man Medical booth, teaching hands-on first aid and trauma care.
Yeah, and that's something that a lot of people overlook. What are you carrying to take care of a wound? I mean, it's I talk to people about this all the time. Everybody assumes they're going to win the gunfight, or they assume they're going to come out unscathed. And quite honestly, we as concealed carriers, we're always reactionary. We're one step behind, and we got to work fast to get up to speed. And that might mean getting hurt and fighting through the pain and fighting through the injury, and then providing self-care or care to somebody nearby you afterwards. So very important that we're talking about things like first aid and trauma care. Absolutely.
Yep. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that comes off. Like I said, Brian's going to be there. I mean, if you want to learn about how to apply a tourniquet correctly, if you want to learn about chest seals, if you want to learn about compression bandages and all kinds of, I can't even remember all the topics. He's got a whole list of topics that he put together that there's going to be a whole schedule to it. You can swing by the Mountain Man Medical booth and see the whole schedule and go, hey, that sounds good. I'm going to stop back by and learn how to do these things. And we'll also have some trauma kits there available for sale as well. So, to your point, Kevin, I mean, you're absolutely right. In fact, I've got some statistics just from my own collection of news stories and things that I've put together over the years that it's pretty close to about 25% of civilian justified saves or DGUs where it's not always clear, so I try to ignore the stories and things where we don't know for sure about the good guy in this, in the altercation. But it's pretty close to 25% in the ones we do know of that they get hurt.
Yeah.
Right. And that's counting minor injuries all the way up to getting shot and potentially even killed. But about 25% of the time, I mean that's not the greatest odds. I don't want to go to Vegas gambling on those kind of odds against me that 25% of the time I'm going to be in a gunfight and I'm also going to get shot. That's problematic. So you need to be prepared for that possibility.
Yeah, and understand too. I mean, we tell people all the time that especially with pistol ammunition, that it's probably not going to be a mechanical stop. It's probably going to be a psychological stop. You're just going to stop fighting because you realize you've been shot. And when in reality, yep, you may have been shot, you may be hurt, it may hurt really bad, but you can still function, and you need to because you got to survive. I mean, the first rule is to make sure you survive, win that fight, and then deal with what happens after that.
Yeah, absolutely. What other stuff are you excited about with the expo, Kevin?
I'm really looking forward to, I love seeing Dave Young, and I try to get up there to his training as often as I can. His weapon protection training is just second to none. And that's an opportunity if people are in there several hours learning how to defend their firearms and make sure that they're keeping control of those guns at all times. I always like seeing the live fire range and seeing
Yeah.
what new guns we have out there. And I'm a big fan. I saw the list today, and Ruger is bringing out that new 5.7 pistol. So I think that now that there's an affordable pistol in the 5.7 caliber, that might just save that cartridge, because I really like that. It's a great cartridge, and now we've got more than one company out there producing a decent firearm for that gun. So
Yeah.
I hope people take the opportunity to go and shoot that and just take a look at it and see what it's like. And just being able to get around and talk to a bunch of like-minded people. I love going to the expo because I run into people from all over the country. And you don't have to be right from Kansas City to show up at the expo. There's still plenty of time to get there. And we've got people typically coming in from Las Vegas or Florida or all over the place to come and see what's going on at the USCCA Concealed Carry Expo. And that's the kind of stuff that I really enjoy. And again, like I said, we are not concerned about coronavirus at all. We've ordered well in advance and have guaranteed placement of several of these hand sanitizer stations, and we've labeled them all with big signs. It says "Born to Protect," even against coronavirus. The USCCA is there, and all of our vendors are going to be getting small hand sanitizers, personal hand sanitizers for them. And we're making sure that we're handing out wipes to all the vendors as well, so they can wipe down all their gear and make sure that everything is fine and dandy. I might even encourage people, do business, but maybe don't shake hands. And in the old days during flu season, Paul Harvey used to suggest that people greet each other with a salute, rather than shake hands during the flu season. And maybe that's just the way to go this time. And I'm told that, coronavirus just can't cross the Midwest. I mean, the bad winter weather, and we're in Kansas City all the way out there. It's not going to make it that way. So we're not worried about it at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad to hear the show's going on, just actually in a planning meeting / phone call with some of your team yesterday. And I asked that very question. I'm like, what's the story here? And they reassured me, no, that we're going forward with this. And I'm glad to hear that, because while I do think that, coronavirus is legitimately something we should be concerned about, and certainly we should be taking personal and individual and family and community preparations for this. It bugs me when I see things. We don't really see a lot of impact of this virus in our country yet, and there's things being shut down all over the place already, as far as like different shows and events and things. And it's like, wow, we're letting this one little thing, at least right now, as far as its impact on our country, get in the way of us being able to live our lives. So I think, I'm glad you guys are going forward with it. I'm not going to be shaking hands. I'm going to be like maybe fist bumping, and then turning right around and putting sanitizer on. So, and it's not a bad idea to just refresh our memories and also how important it is to have good hygiene.
Yeah. And I liken it to this. Take the same precautions that you would take during flu season. I'm not trying to, say that coronavirus is worse or not as lethal or anything like that. I don't want to get in an argument on the semantics and the statistics, but taking the same precautions that you would during flu season and just understanding that, keep your hands clean. Don't be rubbing your eyes a lot and different things like that. And I think we're going to be just fine with this, especially in the location where we're at. There's not a whole ton of international travel going in and out of Kansas City. So that's sort of thing we shouldn't have to worry about too much. And you're right. Yeah. Fist bumps instead of handshakes and using lots of hand sanitizer and washing your hands regularly. And we should be just fine.
Yeah. So obviously looking forward to it. For me, it's about an 8-hour drive. And I noticed looking at the map, that's about an 8-hour or so drive from West Bend, Wisconsin to Kansas City.
About that way.
So we're meeting halfway, bro. So that was actually kind of the inspiration for this somewhat odd title of today's episode, 8 hours from Kansas City. And as Jacob and I were talking about it, we are kind of like, well, you know what? If you're within 8 hours of travel, whether that's by air or by car, okay, honestly, if you're just anywhere, you should try to make it to the expo. But certainly if you're within 8 hours of travel, I think you should really make the effort to try to get to the USCCA Expo.
Yeah, and I appreciate that sentiment, and it's right because it's, spend a weekend and get out there and learn about this. I look at it this way: we call it the concealed carry lifestyle because I don't want it just to be a hobby for people. I want them to be involved and take that weekend, that one weekend every year, and go to the place where that's all we're talking about. That's the entire focus of this is your personal protection plan, how you're going to defend yourself, whether you do that with a firearm or with any other implement. We want to make sure that people are safe and they understand what they're facing in the real world out there. And, people, the sequence is the same when I talk to people who have been involved in an incident. And it's, I don't know what's happening. Oh, something's happening. Oh, this is not happening. Oh, now I know it's happening. I better do something about it. And, that puts you a couple seconds behind the power curve if you're not thinking about the fact that you need to respond immediately and you need to know what to do. You need to think about this stuff before it happens. And that's what we do at the Concealed Carry Expo. It's just a great weekend of training, of opportunities to try out new gear, especially in that women's showroom. That's women only in there, and they get to try stuff on, and they get to talk with other women about how they carry it and where they carry it and why it's good. And there's none of us guys are in there mansplaining and telling them what's going on. They just get to get out there and honestly figure it out for themselves the way it should be. So that's been working really well. We've been doing that for several years. And again, the training opportunities, whether you want to go hands-on and actually get around and wrestle on the ground with folks, or you want to sit in a seminar and understand the nuances of deadly force decision making, or like what I'm going to teach is how to shoot while you're on the move. And we're going to talk about, the world's greatest gunfighting stance, which doesn't exist because I want you moving to cover. The rule number one, don't get shot. So those are the sorts of things that we just really want people to be involved in and just come and immerse themselves and make new friends, talk to people, because you will learn something from everybody at the expo.
Yep. Now, what can folks expect as far as admission? Now, if you're a USCCA member, you get in the show, right?
Yeah, I believe that's still correct. I knew you were going to ask me these tough questions, and I should have talked with Katie before I walked in here. But we're selling tickets for the entire weekend. You buy your ticket, and it's good for the whole weekend. So you're Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and that gets you into all of the free training seminars, and you get to come to the demonstration stage, and shooting at the live fire range is free. You just got to stand in line and pick out your gun, and you get your shoot it. I believe we're doing 5 rounds of ammo at a time, and then you drop your gun back off and go back out and get back in line again. So we're making this accessible to everybody. We just want people coming to the event, working their way through and talking about concealed carry and learning about concealed carry.
Yeah. I've got your answer for you, by the way. So for USCCA members, it says here, registration includes full 3-day admission with access to free seminars, the live fire shooting range, and the exhibit hall. And that is $9.97. So there is a minimal cost. But guys, this is a very, this is probably the cheapest major gun-related expo or show that you could, attend. So, and then non-members. So even if you're not a USCCA member, it's still going to cost you $19.97, and you're still going to get access to all the same stuff as far as getting into the show for the weekend, the free seminars, the live fire shooting range, the exhibit hall, and you get a free 9-line T-shirt. This is for both the members and non-members alike. So that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, and you're going to get that free hand sanitizer when you walk in there. So that's if you look right now on Amazon, they're getting $50 for a 3-pack of Purell. So we're making that stuff available. Just folks can wash their hands anytime they want.
Yep, that's good. And I think it's good that you got a plan for that as well. So let's shift gears a little bit, Kevin. How's things going with the magazine, for instance? I love the magazine you guys put out. I think the best, highest quality, especially concealed carry oriented content in the world in the form of that magazine.
Yeah, we're I am blessed with just an amazing team of professionals when we put this magazine out. Everybody from, and I don't even want to say top to bottom because we couldn't do it without everybody who's doing it. there's stuff on the magazine. I am not the world's greatest copy editor, but I believe we have 3 of the world's greatest copy editors out there. And senior editor Ed Combs can put his hands on stuff that, we have. Oh, we need live scorpions for the cover. Ed will go get us live scorpions, things like that. It's amazing. And when you say the magazine is doing well, I don't even put out the caveat now anymore that the magazine's doing well in the concealed carry space or in the firearm space. We're competing at the national level at the American Society of Magazine Editors and Folio Magazine Awards and stuff like that. Our cover designs are just top notch, and they're competing with everybody from National Geographic to Oprah to other big name magazines that are out there. And we look at Concealed Carry Magazine as covering the entire spectrum of what we do. I don't want it to just be a few gun reviews and a few stories about somebody who'd been involved in a gunfight. We want to go, like I said earlier, before, during, and after. And my goal and the challenge that I give to the members of the staff is, let's try to figure out what people want to know about the concealed carry lifestyle before they realize that they want to know that, and we surprise them in the magazine. We're right in the middle of publishing a 4-part series about the dangers that over-the-road truck drivers face in the magazine. And the reporting that we did last year on this, we sent the guy out and put him in trucks with truck drivers and up to a trial in Idaho about a truck driver who was just savagely beaten in the parking lot of a truck stop when somebody was stealing his rig. And these are the sorts of things that people are asking about. I'm traveling across country. How can I protect myself? And we want to provide those answers before people realize that those are the questions they want to ask. So we're constantly on the lookout for what's coming up, what's next, what are people talking about, and how we can help them.
Yeah. Wow. That actually speaks to me personally, because I grew up with my stepdad and my mom. Both were truck drivers for this part of their career, and for my stepdad for all of his career pretty much. And I know that was always a concern of his, because it's a valid one, especially going cross country, and it's like, what do I do? What can I do? What do I do when I'm going to California or New York, and things like that? It can get really interesting.
Oh yeah. And you have, like you said, 50 different laws, and then you have different policies inside the trucking companies. And it's and honestly, if we can help people with a little bit of situational awareness and maybe some alternate weapons and some opportunities to make sure that they don't get involved in these situations, I would much rather have somebody not get involved in a fight than get involved in a fight and win. I mean, that's, you win every fight you're not in. That's if you tell me I'm having a gunfight next week, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be there. I got something else to do. So that's the kind of things that we want people to think about, that, again, it's not just strapping a gun on your hip and walking around.
I really like Everest's suggestion here, live on YouTube, commenting, can we have an audiobook version of each magazine where Riley reads it to us?
Wow. That would be the soothing voice of Riley, just, bringing it out and get you out there on Audible. We'll look into that, because actually right immediately following the expo, we have a big meeting about what we're going to do with the creating an expanded digital version of Concealed Carry Magazine. So, maybe, Riley would get you as the voice talent, and away we go.
I would do it. I'd be game. That'd be fun.
Yep.
That's awesome. Now, for me to think, though, that anybody would want to listen to me reading the magazine, that's remarkable. But maybe I'll do it just for you, Everest. Maybe just for you.
I was just wondering if you would change the pitch of your voice when you're reading the women's section, in those editions. So
that's a good point. I didn't consider that.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So, Kevin, a couple of random questions. Sometimes I like to ask our various guests on the podcast some of this stuff. What's your current carry gun?
I currently carry a gun from Lone Wolf Distributors, the Gray Man pistol. It's a modified Glock 19, and I told them what parts and pieces I wanted put in there, and they built it up for me. And they looked at it, and they shot a 1.7-inch 15-round group with the gun and thought, hey, maybe we're onto something. So if you go over to Lone Wolf and you just type in Gray Man, you'll see the pistol that I'm carrying right now.
Nice.
I like the idea of 9mm works. As a law enforcement officer, they make us carry 40, but you know what? I get more bullets in a 9mm, and excuse me, I've never talked to anybody who's been involved in a gunfight who wanted fewer bullets. So that's the everyday carry right now is a modified Glock 19.
Nice. What's your choice of holster?
I'm carrying right now the Galco King Tuck because I've mounted a Viridian C5L. I think that C5L. Yeah,
that sounds right.
I never get the model numbers right. I mounted a Viridian C5L with the light and laser on there, and the Galco King Tuck holster works really well and utilizes that instant-on technology with that light and laser combo. So coming out of the holster, the light and laser just automatically turn on. I don't have to fumble for a switch or anything like that.
Nice. And you're carrying inside waistband then, and what, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock?
Yeah, inside the waistband, probably right between 3 and 4, depending on what side or what type of chair I'm sitting in. I'll slide that gun a little bit forward or a little bit back. Keep it right there, and then I use a Pitbull Tactical Universal Mag Carrier on my offside that can go inside or outside the waistband. I've been messing around putting that inside the waistband as well, and that seems to work very well for me. So that's been working good.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah.
We all have been on some sort of concealed carry journey, no matter where we are. Some of us are further along than others, but in my experience, just getting to know more and more people in the industry, we all had to start somewhere at some point. Would you mind sharing with us kind of some of your journey from a time in your life where I guess maybe I imagine there was a time, whether it was when you were too young or whatever it was, but that you weren't carrying to beginning to carry, and what were some of the hardest lessons you learned along the way?
Well, it's how much time do we have? Okay. And this gets into a really rather personal story, and I've shared it before in the magazine and other areas around here too. Growing up in Wisconsin, we did not have a concealed carry law until 2011. It was
Right.
It was completely prohibited, and we actually had to have several test cases go through our Supreme Court to even get open carry prior to that. So there really was no opportunity to carry. I moved to South Dakota in 1993 and immediately went to the courthouse and got my concealed carry permit. And I started carrying a Charter Arms Bulldog 44 Special, and thought, yep, I got a concealed carry permit. I'm carrying my revolver. Everything is fine, and I don't have anything to worry about. And I lived in South Dakota through early 1998, and then was moving back to Wisconsin to take another job back here. And right about the time that I moved back from South Dakota to Wisconsin, my brother was involved in a shooting. And when people ask me this question, I say, yep, my brother was involved in a shooting, and he was actually killed in the shooting. But he was the bad guy. He was involved in the robbery of a Subway sandwich shop in Peoria, Arizona, or on Peoria Avenue in Glendale, Arizona. Forgive me, it's been 20 years now. And my first question was everybody else okay? What happened, that facilitated all this? And for better or for worse, I watched the surveillance video, and it was very clear that, yep, this person wielding the shotgun inside the sandwich shop needed to be shot. It just happened to be someone I was related to. And that just made me wake up and understand that, the person who was trapped in the back corner of that sandwich shop while this lunatic was waving a shotgun and firing around at the clerk, had to know what he was doing and had to be able to produce hits under immense stress very quickly. And I started assessing myself to see if I could do that, and I wasn't trained. I didn't know what I needed to do. I didn't know what the laws were or anything like that. So I picked up work at Gun Digest at the time, and just really started getting involved. I headed off to any training school I could get to, writing stories for Gun Digest magazine, and really moving into the concealed carry space, making that kind of my priority. Just based on that personal story. So I traveled all around the country and trained just as much as I could and learned just as much as I could, even while I was not legally allowed to carry. And irony of ironies is the building in which Gun Digest was produced was a gun-free zone. Big signs outside that we couldn't carry guns with us inside the building. I can say now, because that company is defunct and the building's now closed, that there was a firearm within my reach at all times, for the entire 15-year stretch that I worked there. But it was kind of strange to work at Gun Digest magazine and walk through the door every day and see a gun-free zone sign as I walked in there. So that was really the impetus of what got me going, and what I decided that I needed to be able to function properly under stress and make the right decisions, because it was very clear that in the incident in which my brother was involved, there was no question about it. This was a deadly force incident. There was an imminent deadly threat, and it needed to be stopped immediately. And those are the sorts of things that I just started thinking about. And honestly, when you watch a video like that and it's a member of your family, you just can't get that out of your head. So you have to, for me, I just had to do something about that. And the longer and longer I kept training and learning and doing, and finally ended up at the police academy. Just again, how can I help? That was my thought all the time. How can I help other people get through this? So,
Wow. I did not know that story about your brother.
oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Clearly, you haven't been reading my blogs or anything like that.
I catch I catch as many
Yeah,
as I can, but
yeah.
you
We're
produce a
busy
lot.
people. I understand. I get it, but yeah, it's been out there for a little while. So
Yeah.
it gets easier and easier to share over the years. Initially it was just a very difficult story to tell, but I mean, my first phone call, obviously, my mother called me to give me the news, and that was my first question was, did he hurt anybody? And because I don't want any innocent people to get hurt. There's bad people in the world, and they will come and hurt you to try to take your stuff. And I really felt immediately concerned about everybody else who was involved in this incident. I mean, obviously I was concerned about him, and I was hurting for him, but quite frankly, he brought that upon himself, and the actions he took forced somebody else to take other actions.
Yeah. Yeah. I was speaking of Concealed Carry Magazine and the amazing design work you guys are doing, especially on your covers. I was just thinking, we got a copy. I meant to actually have it here with me, but we have a copy sitting out on the table in the other room here. And it's the one, I think it's a fairly recent issue, that just has a bunch of like headlines of different DGU
Yep.
stories.
Yeah.
And there's a few that are kind of bold and made bigger and stuff, kind of highlighting some different things. I took one look at that. I'm like, that's good.
Yeah.
It's really a powerful cover to look, and you realize how many, I don't know how many hundreds or however many examples there are on that one cover, but it's a powerful testament to the good that civilian carriers do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do a true stories issue every year. We started doing that the first year that I took over the magazine back in 2013. And every one of those headlines appeared somewhere in Concealed Carry Magazine. So those are not just stories that we picked up off the newswire or anything like that. Those are stories that actually appeared in Concealed Carry Magazine. Those headlines were there. And we just started moving them around and creating something that we thought looked really good to put that together. But you're right, it is very moving to think that many times a good guy with a gun has done what it takes to protect himself or his family. And we just want people to understand that it's the right thing to do. Carrying a gun and defending yourself is the right thing to do. It might be the most traumatic thing you ever experienced, but it is the right thing to do.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Well, I want to be respectful of your time, and I know you got a commitment here coming up here in about 10 minutes or so. So, oh, I've got something playing in the background here. Sorry about that. Stupid tabs that I have open here. So, as we kind of wrap things up here, Kevin, I guess I want to, kind of go back to where we started. Again, folks, I really, really, really hope that you will consider joining us at the USCCA Expo here in just a couple of weeks. It's March 20th to 22nd, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Show opens, I think, at like 2 p.m. on Friday, It
Yep.
runs to like 7 p.m. and then Saturday all day, and then Sunday basically all day, but it cuts a little bit short on Sunday. So,
And I really
guys,
want to remind folks too, we've expanded our Proving Ground Live event that's going on Friday night.
yeah,
Last year we did our Proving Ground, which is the scenario-based training, and we ran one scenario. This year we've put together 3 scenarios, and we're going to put 3 different trainees through the scenarios and talk through them as we go out there. And that's the Friday night event after the show is over, right near the end of the show, and gives people an opportunity to see exactly what folks do when they're under stress. And the stress of this event is nowhere near the stress of a real gunfight. But we'll talk about it afterwards, and we'll talk with the trainees and see what they saw and what they felt as they went through it.
yeah, that's great, and I'm glad you reminded me about that. I failed to mention the Proving Ground event, and that is a fantastic event. I know the one you guys did last year. I mean, last year I think it was the first time you did it at the show, and it was filmed and broadcast live all at the same time, right?
Yeah, we grabbed the footage for that, and we're going to be working on that again this year. It's kind of difficult sometimes to get it out there live, just because of different camera angles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we want to get this information to as many people as possible. We want people to see what it's like, and to embrace this idea that you need to train. You need to think about this stuff before it happens, because in the middle of a gunfight is no time to be making a plan.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. So, guys, again, if you're passionate about your own personal protection, your families, the ability to be ready for that moment when and if it comes. Of course, we pray it never comes for anybody, but the reality is, as we well know, it does. There are bad things that happen to good people every day in this country. So, I hope that I have what it takes if and when that comes. And the same for everybody else. And I'll tell you one good way of helping you in that process, in that journey, is attending the USCCA Expo, taking in all the incredible free training, seeing all the exhibitors, the vendors, the new products, getting your hands on that stuff. Maybe you're going to find your next, whether it's a holster, whether it's some kind of clothing solution that solves a problem you've been having as far as concealing or whatever it is, being able to utilize the indoor, right? It's right there on the show floor. It's kind of crazy how this all works. It's in a semi trailer, but being able to step foot on a live range while you're at a trade show like this, and shoot and try all these different guns, it's a really amazing opportunity for $10-20 max. You're stupid if you're not there, or you're busy, or you're
I wouldn't
a long ways away, and I get that
that's
too.
That's not the way to endear the customers. We're going to work on some marketing. It will be a great event, folks. You need to be there, and you will be smarter when you leave. But that doesn't mean you were stupid when you started. So I smoothed it over. We're all good.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thanks for saving me there, bro. Well, anyway, we're looking forward to seeing everybody. I mean, last year we had so many of you, including our Guardian Nation members that showed up, including some like Joe, who came all the way out from California, and that was in Pittsburgh last year. And Joe came all the way from California. I hope Joe's going to be there again this year. I think he is. And what a great time we had seeing everybody, shaking hands, although we may not be shaking hands this year. And, it was really, really an amazing event. And thanks and mad kudos to you and the USCCA for putting together another great event. I know it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And thank you very much, Riley, for being there and participating the way you guys do, and for talking about it and all the stuff you guys do at concealedcarry.com. It's just an amazing group of folks. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, guys, again, check out usccaexpo.com. And again, and one last recognition for our sponsors of the live broadcast booth during the show, XS Sights and 511 Tactical. And so, throw those guys your love and support as well, because what they do supporting us makes the things we do possible. And of course, everybody here being a part of this episode today, just your presence and listening to this podcast supports us and everything we do, and we sincerely appreciate you all. So with that, it's going to be another wrap to a great episode. Thanks, Kevin, for being a part of this one with me today.
Oh, you're very welcome. And anytime you want me to be on again, I'll be happy to be here.
Okay. Well, we may have to do that. Thank you. Well, folks, with that, let's wrap it up. A reminder to train often, train right, and train safe so you can fight hard, fight fast, and fight true. Take care. Okay, that's a wrap of the recorded audio. To the folks on Facebook viewing along with us today, thanks for being here, and thank you for your amazing comments. I appreciate your support. But we're going to go ahead and sign on out of here and let you all go.
All right. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.